What up, everybody? A good, happy Thursday morning to you all. A DK show up on your radio dials right now on 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. You can stream it up over there, download the app, take it on the go. Got your Google and Alexa home devices. Listen up over there. Video streams also up and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. Hopefully, if you're already up and at it, you're off to a fantastic start here. And what do we got on our good old game plan for us this morning? Well, we'll continue some Packers chat here. We got Brian Gutekunst with his season wrap-up press conference. Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst with his season wrap-up. So we're going to play If You Had one question that you could ask Goody today. You could go over to Green Bay. Maybe you're already in Green Bay, but you could go into the media auditorium underneath the bowels of Lambeau Field there and ask one question to the Packers general manager. What would that question be? All right. Think about it. Start to think about it. You can pass it along and share with the rest of us, share with the rest of the class. Try to come up with something creative. We can operate under the assumption, too, that he's going to be truthful in these answers. But think about it for a little bit and hit me up with those. I got a few questions I'd like to ask Goody myself. So we'll see if we got maybe something. Well, a lot of these are similar or not. So speaking of which, a couple of green and gold notes here. Jeff Hafley has been requested to interview for a head coaching job. The New York Jets putting in a request to interview Hafley for their head coaching job before you downplay it and such. Now, first, I don't think he will get it, but you never know with the Jets and that. But anybody wondering about Hafley and, would he even want to go there? He is a Jersey native, so a little bit closer to home and such. That could play a factor in it. But throwing it out there, yes, Jeff Hafley's got his first head coaching request coming at the hands of the New York Jets. Speaking of head coaches, Matt LaFleur, I know he had his season presser, end of the season presser the other day. But on the Matt LaFleur podcast with Matt Schneidman, go ahead and take a listen to it. It's only about 20-some minutes and such. And Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic, getting a few questions into LaFleur on the side and such, and of different, areas and such. But the one that maybe is a little interesting that kind of maybe relates a little bit to some of the stuff from the locker room that we've been hearing. But Matt LaFleur was asked, to name, there was a question about, Keyshawn Nixon and such. And LaFleur had made a comment about, he relies on Nixon. And I think it was Nixon, kind of being a voice in the locker room, somebody that he can kind of go to and kind of get the vibe and the pulse of the locker room. So Schneidman followed it up with, who are the players that you lean on to kind of gauge the vibe or the pulse in the locker room? And LaFleur named 11 players: Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Keyshawn Nixon, Xavier McKinney. There is probably one name for sure that everybody's like, oh, missing on that list. Maybe kind of fits some of the rumblings and stuff out there. But maybe another one out there too. Who's that player that stands out to you? Let's play, see if we're all on the same thinking path here. Okay. Who's that dude? We all thinking the same player. So, but we'll hit that up and talk a little A little green and gold here this morning. Bucks wise to the courts, to the basketball courts, I should say, be a little bit more specific. Bucks picking up a dominating win last night against the Orlando Magic, picking up another win, 122-93. Dame leading the way for the Bucks. Excuse me, putting up 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Giannis, 26 points, 11 rebounds, another double-double for the Greek Freak. Bucks also able to get 14 points from Chris Middleton off the bench, 14 for Bobby Portis off the bench as well. So Bucks improving to 22-17 on the season. Next game will be against the Raptors coming up tomorrow. Bucks have now moved up to the 4th spot in the Eastern Conference, moving up a half a game over the Orlando Magic. So there you have it, moving up to 4. They're 3.5 back from the Knicks for that 3rd spot in the Eastern Conference. T-Wolves, by the way, falling last night to the hands of the Golden State Warriors, 116-115. College-wise, locally-wise, the Blue Gold men's basketball team, they're pretty close to pulling off a big-time upset, taking on the number 1 team in the entire country, Platteville. In Platteville, Blue Golds had the lead at the half, just couldn't close it out. So they fell on the road to Platteville. The women's team fell to Platteville. UW Stout women's team, though, taking down La Crosse, while the Stout men's team fell to La Crosse. So, but we'll have some hoops chats into this thing here too. Kind of talk a little bit about the Bucks and that as we approach the halfway mark of the regular season right now. What else do we got on the game plan? We'll play a little. Got to mention this. Brewers. It was kind of a big day yesterday, more so for probably some other franchise such, but a big day for a franchise like the Brewers because it was the international signing period, and the Brewers signed 3 of the top 50 prospects per MLB pipeline. Now, may not think this is a kind of a big deal right away and that sort of thing. Remember, this is how the Brewers got Jackson Cheerio. Okay, this is how the Brewers were able to get a guy like Jackson Cheerio. So, a couple of the 3 that are listed in the top 50 of Major League Baseball's top 50 prospects. You've got a speedy, power-hitting Kenny Fenelon from the Dominican Republic, Braylon Antunes from Venezuela, actually the same hometown as Jackson Cheerio, and a short. So those are 2 outfielders, and you got shortstop Christopher Acosta, who's ranked number 45. Fenelon's ranked number 36, and Antunes is ranked 42. Acosta is ranked number 45. But the Brewers overall, 29 players signed on Wednesday with Milwaukee. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I mean, kind of a decent chunk of change. The club received a $7.56 million pool, tied for the highest of any organization at this point. But Fenelon's deal, $1.3 million, and Antunes will receive about $1 million. So again, I think this is another way, and we'll probably get into more detail on this with a Brewers guy, Brandon, tomorrow. But I think this is another way where the Brewers, we know their shortcomings when it comes to payrolls and salaries and such. This is another way, another avenue for the Brewers to succeed at, to remain competitive in Major League Baseball. They're not going to go out there and sign the Juan Sotos, the Otanis, and such. But maybe they could find the Jackson Cheerios and such and get these guys and lock them up for maybe some cheaper deals and compete with some younger players mixed in with a few veterans here and there. So I feel like this is an area that the Brewers have to hit up, and I think this is why they put so much resources into areas like the international signing period, because they're trying to find that talent out there that may fly a little bit under the radar and, well, doesn't cost as much right at the beginning there. So, but again, we'll hit this up coming up here in a little bit. We've got receive or defer. So I am taking your receive or defer questions this morning. You got any good ones? Let me know. Hit me up. Okay. 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. Text those puppies on over. Okay. So plus outdoor tidbits, outdoor chat with Jake Bolks coming up at about 8:30. I also need some questions from you. So if you got a question for our DNR warden, now is the time to send those on over. So full slate, full game plan, that call sheets loaded up here. Let's get things rolling here. We'll open it up. Chat a little green and gold. Again, playing. If you had one question, you could ask Brian Gutekunst in his season wrap up as we head into the offseason for the green and gold. What would that question be? Just one. I'm only taking one. So send those on over. Plus, to reaction from the comment from Matt LaFleur. Well, who's that person you think that was left off that list? Or maybe give me a couple that was maybe a little surprising too. So we'll open it up with some of that chat coming up here, but plenty more to get to. What else is on your mind? You can hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, or comment on the video streams too, or hit me up on the socials, or shoot me an email. Plenty of different ways. All right, quick break. We'll be back. At Carpet City Flooring Center, they know that the right flooring can change everything. Whether it's the cozy feel of a new carpet in your living room or the timeless elegance of I'm I'm losing my voice here this morning, so I apologize if I sound a little off. Or the timeless elegance of luxury vinyl planks in your dining area. Your floors set the stage for life's moments. Their team of experts are there to help you with so much experience and a passion for finding the perfect flooring for your style and needs. From the latest trends to classic designs, they offer a wide selection of carpets, laminate, and luxury vinyl planks, and they can help you even with remodeling your shower. So yeah, if that's that shower tile's been in there for a while and you're like, dude, we got to update that, they can help you out with that. And when it comes to installation, they've got you covered. Their professional installers ensure every detail is handled with care. So all you have to do is enjoy your beautiful new space. Stop by Carpet City Flooring Center today and let them help you bring your vision to life. Because at Carpet City, it's more than flooring, it's where life happens. Visit them in store today, 3109 East Hamilton Avenue in Eau Claire. All right. Let's chat a little green and gold as we are still, hate to say it, we are into the offseason here. But today we'll hear from the man who builds the roster, Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst. Will be doing his season-ending presser later on today. And if you could ask him one question, just one question, what would that question be? If you could go over to the media room and ask that question, what would it be? For remember, it's not a coach question. It's a general manager roster, sort of stuff out there. But what would that question be? Give you a little bit more time to think about that and send it on over. Try to think about it for here a little bit. Before we get to that and some of your picks, though, Matt LaFleur on the Matt LaFleur podcast with Matt Schneidman the other day. It was released yesterday, I believe. But in the podcast, Matt, they were talking about Keyshawn Nixon's comments and such about not wanting to do kick returns anymore. He said frustrated with the new rules, and he wants to focus on being an outside corner and such. And when LaFleur was asked about that in his presser a couple days ago, he didn't hear about that. And actually, he says in his pod, he ended up running into Nixon after his presser, and they talked about it and such. And Nixon apparently said he didn't think it was going to be, kind of a trending topic out there. And LaFleur was just, kind of reminding him about stuff, you say and that. And LaFleur made a comment about, if we want him to be a kick returner, Keyshawn's going to be a kick returner because he's a team player. And he praised Nixon, kind of being a guy that he can lean on in the locker room and get the vibe and the chit chat in the locker room, because LaFleur's not in the locker room all the time, or as I should say, as much as the players were. So the follow-up question, which was a fantastic follow-up question from Matt LaFleur, was, who are those players? Who are those guys that you kind of go to gauge the locker room pulse? And I don't know if this is similar to we've heard before in the past. I know this was a Mike McCarthy thing for sure. I thought it was for LaFleur. I could be mistaken, but that leadership council that you hear about, it's player led and that. So I don't know if this is similar to that, but Matt LaFleur named these individuals, and it's not like he had a list on them, so he was going off the top of his head. He was kind of going through it in his mind and such. But Matt LaFleur named these 11 players: Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Keyshawn Nixon, and Xavier McKinney. So, I mean, a lot of those names, they're like, well, they make sense, right? I mean, everything we've heard, especially even though they're new, it's Jacobs and McKinney. Elton makes a ton of sense. Kenny Clark makes a ton of sense, being there for a while. Your quarterback's on there as well. I mean, we heard Tucker talk the other day, and obviously he's not afraid to speak up, and sounds like he's going to do a little bit more. But there definitely is one player missing, or maybe a couple to two. Because I'll be honest, there was two players. There was two players on here that I thought was interesting. And now, before we kind of get into oh my God, what does that mean? Sort of thing. I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here that, okay, he's going through his mind and trying to think of the players and such. So maybe he just innocently forgot a couple guys on there, and that absolutely can happen. Okay. But however, I think it also means something to a point that if they're not at the top of your head, if they're not at the top of your mind when you're asked the question like, hey, who are your leaders in your locker room? And you rattle off a few players, obviously some of those players have made impressions in a positive way. And the players who are not listed on there, maybe it could just be a brain fart, or maybe it's a little bit. But it's clearly obvious the top one there is Jair. It's Jair Alexander. Um, given what he had just said the other day in the locker room, given the last couple years and such, and it wasn't that long ago, a few years ago, he was elected captain of this team. But I remember too, it was the following year, I believe he wasn't, and kind of took a little bit of a page out of the Zadarius Smith playbook. He didn't go to Instagram and post anything about it, but he told the media and such, or, kind of insinuated that, it stunk that he wasn't a captain again. So I don't know if guys, when they get elected captains, do they use that role or do they just kind of use it as a role of like, you know, title only sort of thing? But I think maybe it's not a whole lot. Maybe it's not a lot to do about nothing. But I'm a believer though too that the fact that it wasn't at the top of the mind right away maybe does tell you a little bit of something. Like I feel more and more and more in the direction that Ja is gone, and it stinks and it sucks because really, they still needed another corner in my opinion. I mean, for crying out loud, we were in the last draft thinking that they were going to draft a corner fairly high, and they didn't draft one. They got Kalen King in the 7th round, was it? Undrafted, 7th round, I think it was. But they didn't get one early. And even with Jair, I think a lot of us thought that they'd still need another one, especially with Eric Stokes not playing at a high level. You move on from him because when he's healthy, he's good. He's good. But when you move on, if you're going to move on from him, that makes that hole quite a bit bigger. So it stakes because I liked Ja. I liked Jair. I liked the enthusiasm he brought. I know his personality probably rubbed some Packers fans the wrong way. But when he was out on the field and he was playing at a high level, he was a darn good corner. And it's going to stink to lose him. I get it, though. Availability, you look at the last couple of years, injuries and such with that contract, and now maybe with some other stuff going on, it's probably best for them to move on. And it's maybe a little bit of a head scratcher too. If Jair does move on, will we find out more? Because it felt like after last year's suspension, it felt like maybe Jair turned the corner. Was like, okay, that was a wake up call. And then all offseason, it was like Xavier McKinney and Jair, just like hand in hand, hip to hip. Those were the two guys. And it felt like, okay, maybe Xavier coming in, having a positive influence on Jair. I mean, they're the same age and such, but it felt like those two were kind of attached to the hip and were going to lead the secondary. So what the heck transpired during the season? Would it have something to do with the knee injury and Jair and the Packers weren't on the same page with everything? I don't know. But I can't wait for that podcast or that Instagram post or that social media post to come out if it ever comes out from Jair and such. So the other player I kind of thought on here a little bit was Romeo. That was the second player that kind of came to my mind in this thing was Romeo. And again, I don't know if it was just because of what transpired earlier this season too, where he was suspended and kind of ghosting the team and such. But I think, for a guy like Romeo who's been there for 3 years and has played a lot of, played football at a high level in his first 3 years, that was the other name. Like I was trying to think of some names to maybe add to this. That was the other one that kind of like popped up in my head. So those were the two, but obviously the one that Packers Twitter, Packers social media out there is is kind of running away with and kind of pointing a finger at is Jair. So it'll be interesting in the coming weeks, coming days, and that. And honestly, that might be a question that I would ask Goody today. Now, the thing is, guarantee you, if you actually were in that room today and you asked Goody about Jair's future with Green Bay, you're probably going to get a typical general manager speak, assessing the roster, blah, blah, it's the political speech. He's not going to really reveal anything or get into what he's thinking, get into the conversations that are happening behind closed doors at 1265. But if there was a time, at this time, it's like, hey, Goody, let's go down to the stadium view and go have a beer or a couple beers and such, and then you kind of get a little bit off the record. That would definitely be one question that I would ask Goody, like, okay, what are we doing with 2-3? What's the game plan for Jair? What are we doing with this thing? Because I think that to me is going to be a big move this offseason. And it's an offseason that Green Bay's got a little cash to play with. What other questions would you ask Goody? Before I get to mine here, just a quick note too. Jeff Halfley, according to Albert Breer, I think Albert Breer was the first one. It's the first one I saw last night. Jeff Halfley is interviewing or will be interviewing with the Jets for their head coaching job. He was requested for a head coaching job, which honestly I'm surprised that this is the only one and it took a little bit for this. And maybe that Eagles game kind of like opened some of the eyes for other people out there. If I were willing to wager a guess and wager a bet on this, I don't think Halfley gets the job, but he's going to take it and such. And he is a Jersey guy, so I'm sure that's probably a little intriguing for him, potentially going back to the East Coast and that. And remember, Halfley left the college world as a head coach because it was the transfer portal, NIL. Not in so many words did he say that, but he wants to focus on football and just kind of coaching football and such. So I don't think he'll get the job. I think he will be an impressive interview. I think if anybody has ever listened to Halfley talk and listened to his pressers and such, you can tell. I mean, seems like a very impressive guy and speaks very well and makes good impressions, right? I mean, if there's a fan base that was eating up what the guy said, it was Green Bay, in his first impressions and his mindset and his goals of what he wanted to do this defense. He made a very good impression, I think, on a lot of people when he was first hired. You're like, who the hell is what? We're getting a college head coach coming over to be D coordinator. But then you hear him talk the first couple times. It's like, okay, this dude's impressive. So I think he's going to make an impression, which makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not completely shutting the door on the possibility of him potentially getting a head coaching job. But given the other candidates potentially out there and available and such, I think he would have to kind of leapfrog some of the other guys on that list. But I've got no doubt in my mind he's going to be uber impressive. And the more interviews that he potentially takes in his career, I mean, I think the arrow's trending that Halfley eventually in the next couple years is going to be a head coach because he is so impressive when you listen to him talk and how he talks football and the mindset and such. It's just like, okay, I almost wanted to, okay, if the Jets were very, and I think they're serious to do an interview, but if, they get through this interview, I think it's going to be tomorrow. They're like, okay, we really like this guy. Now, can you move quick so maybe we can get like Robert Saleh to stick around as defensive coordinator or something like that? That's like my only worry on this thing. But I don't think Halfley will get the job, but I think he is going to make a super, super, super positive impression. And that's going to trickle. Other teams are going to know that. They're going to get that info like, hey, this guy was pretty darn impressive in this interview. So, whether it's the next hiring cycle, teams are going to file that in the back of their mind like, okay, maybe we need to talk to this guy. Maybe we need to pick his brain and such. So, but back to the Goody thing. If you could ask Goody, Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst, one question today, what would it be? Now, I've got a list over here, but I'm looking for just one from all of you. Okay. One question from all of you. What would it be? Okay. For me, for my list, in no particular order here, I'm not ranking them or anything like that, but I think, you know, obviously we talk about the cap space and such. How active. Now, he's not going to say we're going to be. I don't think he's going to say we're going to be very active. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be. He's not going to lay out the game plan. Essentially, he may generically say, yeah, we're going to be looking at the free agent market and looking for players to help us and help us take the next step. Kind of that typical answer, but like just how aggressive? Like, how aggressive are they going to be at this thing? Are they going to look at a veteran wide receiver to bring in? I think, are you going to look at defensively when you hear your head coach and your coordinator say they want to get home with four guys, with a four-man rush, and you see what transpired, what happens with your four down linemen, your front four this year? Does that make you go, okay, we need more help up there? We need a guy that can dominate. We need a guy that can win a one-on-one, a defensive tackle, or whatever the case may be. Like, I got to get my guys, my coaches, my defensive coordinator, that guy up front. Because if I do, then it makes everybody's job on behind them a little bit easier. So, I guess with that too, where if he would reveal it, which he won't, but if he would reveal it, what would be the position that he would kind of prioritize in free agency? Like, what would be that top position? And did last year's signings with Jacob and Xavier McKinney, with how well they worked this year, does it push the needle just a little bit more to like, okay, that positive influence on those two players, let's try to do that again this year. We saw those guys, even like when he brought in Zadarius and Preston and Adrian and Billy Turner, right away, first 2 years, they were positive influences on the team. They helped turn that team around and get back to the postseason and NFC championships. So I got to imagine, okay, I've got the cap space here. Yes, I want to probably re-sign Zach Tom and maybe even look at Myers. That would be another question I would have for him. Like, a lot of people out there that cover the Packers just kind of assume it's going to be a thing. Go out, get your value, see what teams are willing to offer you, come back and such. Been seeing a lot of the John Runyon comparisons from last year where the Giants gave him a lot of money. But where is that position priority for you? Where would that be? Where is that at when you look at free agency? And is it a high priority for you for these last 2 years? You are the youngest roster in the league. You've cleared a lot of your dead cap hit. You cleared that off a lot. Is it a priority for you to mix in some veterans now that you have a little bit more space, now that you've moved on from a lot of that dead cap hit? Is it a priority for you as a general manager to add some veterans to your roster? You heard Matt LaFleur say, Love needs more help. Does that mean a veteran wide receiver? So just kind of the overall mindset heading into this free agency. And, I'll go back to kind of tangent I was on the other day here, but with an eye towards the draft here, can we put a focus on your first round picks being guys that can step on the field and be a contributor day one? Like, I get it. Some of these guys that you pick in round one, their ceiling could be super high and the arrow's up high. Like some of the guys in the first round, okay, you already know what you're getting from them. But some of the other guys, you can mold them a little bit more and they can be all pro type of players. I think at this point in time, that with my first round picks, I just want a dude that's going to play right away and be a factor right away, be a contributor right away. Not somebody that's gonna wait your turn. Kind of on the job sort of training here. I want them on the field right away. I want them wrecking games right away. I want them to be a difference maker out there. And I know you're drafting 23rd. Not necessarily always the case, but I mean, when Balaga got their difference maker, Jordan Addison was a 23rd overall pick. He was pretty good his rookie year too. A guy that can do something like that. Or is he still going to maybe prioritize a guy that has got all the talent in the world, all the potential in the world? Is it potential or is it the now? What's the priority with an eye towards that April draft? And yeah, I mean, we could go. Obviously, I mentioned the Jair one over there too. The Romeo, Romeo, you factor in concussions and the issue earlier in the season with the cut in that. Yeah, I mean, we could go a bunch of ways, especially going back to receiver one. How much does the Christian Watson thing affect you? Almost would like to ask, do you regret giving Kenny Clark that big deal before last season? You know, you're not going to get a truthful answer from that today, but yeah, looking at it now, it's like, oh man, maybe we should have hold it off a little bit. What else would you ask? What else would you ask? Text me now. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to go through some of those questions coming up after these quick words. C-Bomb, Surveyor, Tammy, not sure if you're listening right now, our contestants from our Feats of Strength from our Festivus show over at VFW Post 305. Now, I don't know if this was something that they're doing because of what you guys did, but coming up on Saturday, February 1st, the first annual Atomic Hot Wing Eating Contest. All right. So Timmy and C-Bomb, you might have to wear your wing bling and go over there and participate. It starts at 4 p.m. Again, VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. $10 entry fee over there. So prize is awarded for first, second, and third place. Competitors need to devour as many blazing hot wings within a 3-minute time frame. All right, so here we go, C-Bomb. Here we go, Surveyor. Here we go, Tim. Let's you guys got to represent Sports Talk for that one. Got to represent us. So I think, coming up on February 1st, 4 p.m. That's a Saturday. Got to go over there and do that. Hey, if you guys are doing it, I might stop by and cheer you guys on too. So we should get a Sports Talk team in that. Yeah. Huh. Also, a week, 8 days after that too, you got the big game party over there, 4 to 8 p.m. So if you're looking for somewhere to watch the big game, nacho bar, brats, hot dogs, all you can eat, just $15 over there. So fantastic. I love the VFW Post 305. And today is Thursday, which is a slider Thursday for VFW Post 305. One burger slider, $3. One cheeseburger slider, $5. Four sliders for 10. Two burger sliders with fries and 2 mugs of a domestic beer, $12. That's a heck of a deal over there. So, Jeff with, Jeff, I'm glad you asked this question. Jeff first said, why is Jair Alexander so unhappy, and is there a chance he may be traded? Talking about, I'm assuming this is a question for Goody. Jeff, and I'm glad you said that because it made me thinking, we've been speculating, we've been saying, Jair's unhappy. Obviously, Jair's unhappy, but we never asked the question why. Why is Jair unhappy? We've never thought to ask that to ourselves. Like, why is he unhappy? We're connecting the dots to where it looks like it sure seems like he is. But I'm glad you threw that out, Jeff. Why? Like, where's the source of this? This is from a guy that does the meditation and all that, was a factor, a positive influence in Quay Walker after Quay Walker's rookie year, where, ejected a couple times. Jair was the guy that stepped in and kind of helped him relax with his emotions and all that. And ever since that rookie year, we have not had any issues with Quay Walker doing stupid penalties, right? So why, for a guy who's Zen, supposedly Zen, what's the source of the unhappiness? I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, what are you going to do to shore up the passing game for Jordan Love with Watson out for the possible season next year and Romeo Dobbs' questionable return due to concussions? It seems we will be needing a 1 and a 2 receiver at least for next year, draft or free agency. Mark says, Mr. GM, what are you going to do different this year to ensure we get a real impact player in the first round, as your past track record in the first round has not been good? Co-sign that one. Absolutely. G-Man says, Goody, how is Green Bay going to pull off the 2025 NFL draft? Well, G-Man, I don't think Goody's worried about that. See, Green Bay's got other people on staff to make sure that all goes to plan and such. I just want Goody to focus on making sure he's getting a player for us players that could be impact players out there. So, but any more questions that you would ask Goody today at his season wrap-up presser, let us know if you got a good one over there. Hit me up, okay? Comment on the video streams or hit me up with a text. Timothy on the video stream says, question for Goody: why do you think this team failed during the last 3 weeks of the season? Chris, snitches get stitches. I'm assuming you're referring to the to the Keyshawn and LaFleur. Need a little more context there, Chris. So I know it was a few minutes ago, so it's missed it earlier. But yeah, video stream or text. That works for both. In terms of the Jeff Halfley news, a couple texters chimed in on that saying, I really hope Jeff doesn't leave, but I'm not surprised that somebody's asking to interview him. I agree. I don't think the Jets are going to hire him, but this is going to be the first of many interviews, I feel like, for Halfley in the next couple of years. Another texter says, I'm a little concerned about the Jets interviewing Jeff Halfley because you never know what the Jets are going to be thinking about. To the first texter too. Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be the first of many in the next couple of years, unless the defense just tanks next year, right? I mean, unless that group just completely tanks. You hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but you never know. An example is last year at this time, Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Sloak was a hot name, getting some interviews. Don't think he's been requested for a single interview this year. So, I mean, 1 year can make a difference. It could change a lot. But I'll go back. Halfley, you listen to the guy talk and you listen to his press conferences. The dude is very polished and he comes off super impressive. And I think that's going to make a major impression on teams when they talk to him. And you bet your bottom dollar that other teams are going to find out about that too. Heck, it could be front office people that are in on those interviews. They may not be the main decision maker, but if they get a chance to go elsewhere and they become that decision maker, they're going to remember stuff like that. So, yeah, that talk is going to be out there. It 100% is going to be out there. All right. Coming up next hour, I want to talk some hoops. Bucks with a win last night over the Orlando Magic. Giannis again moving up on a list. Tell you what that is. So we'll hit that up. Brewers, we're going to talk some Brewers coming up next hour too. Got the international signing period. Brewers locking up 3 players in the top 50 of that international signing period. 29 total players formally signed on Wednesday with Milwaukee. So tell you why this is a big deal when it comes to a team like the Brewers. So I know we're getting a few weeks away from spring training and such, but we'll want to talk a little bit about the international signing class from the Brewers. So we'll hit that up. We've got some receiver defer coming up in less than an hour. I need your questions, okay? With me losing my voice, I'm going to need your help with some of these questions. You've got a good receiver defer. Text those puppies on over. Text them on over for us, 715-830-1912. Okay. So we'll get to that. Plus Jake Bolks, our conservation warden buddy. He'll be answering your questions coming up at 8:30. So if you have any questions for our DNR warden for our outdoor chats, now is the time to send those on over as well. So, all right, I guess we do have a couple minutes, so I can go back to the texting line here because I don't want to get into another topic. We only got a few minutes left here, but what I would ask Goody, going back to the texting line, this is from Greg. What I would ask Goody is he going to prioritize getting receiving help to help Jordan Love or defensive help to help out an ascending defense? Another texter, Dave, says on the texting line here, what I would ask Goody is he concerned about some of his assistants getting GM interviews and potentially leaving? How does he fill those roles? Another texter, don't have a name for this one. Texter says, I would ask Brian at the presser today what he saw from Jordan Love from year 1 to year 2, and does he still remain confident in his quarterback going forward? And then the other question, one more, this one comes from Seth. Seth says, what I would ask the Packers general manager today is how aggressive he is going to be in free agency. So, all right. Then I got an email here too. So Lonnie says, question for Goody is, would you consider bringing in an offensive play caller? Well, Matt LaFleur was actually asked about that from Matt Schneidman on the Matt LaFleur podcast too. So, as Schneidman kind of notes, it's almost like every year that's just a question that has to be asked to LaFleur, and actually wasn't asked to LaFleur at the other press conference, but it doesn't sound like LaFleur is going to be giving up offensive play calls. So hopefully that answers your question, Lonnie. Big thanks for the email over there. So okay, just a couple minutes left. Again, I want to talk some Brewers, switch it up here a little bit, talk about this international signing class there. I know there's not a whole lot of Brewer stuff, baseball stuff going on right now, especially when it comes to specifically with the Brewers and such. But this international signing thing, I think, is something to pay attention to. And we're gonna give you a few names, maybe to kind of keep in the back of your mind, because remember, this is how the Brewers got Jackson Cheerio. Okay, this is how Jackson Cheerio hooked up with the Brewers. Was this international signing period? Looks like it's worked out pretty well. And why this international signing period is very important for a team like the Brewers. We'll hit that up. We'll do a little throwback Thursday coming at you. I mean, the last couple days has been a nice Packers one. Yesterday was the anniversary of Super Bowl I and such. So you're going to have a lot of that stuff, but we'll do a little throwback Thursday coming up at past the top of the hour, over there too. So getting ready for a big football weekend, though. I still forget the national championship's coming up on Monday. It's kind of flying under the radar here a little bit. We'll do some updates on other NFL head coaching interviews too. Mike McCarthy, by the way, did officially interview with the Bears last night. Read that the Bears apparently flew in McCarthy, like sent a private plane to go pick him up and fly him in. Don't know if that means anything, but that was something that was kind of being thrown out there too. So, all right, one in already. We got two more to go. Got some news updates, and we'll be back after these few minutes. Second hour kicking off right now. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. We're going to talk a little baseball here coming up in just a little bit. Brewers International signing period beginning yesterday. And we'll tell you about some of the players that the Brewers inked got on their team and why it's a big deal. Hoops wise, Bucks picking up a nice win last night, dominating win against the Orlando Magic. Dame 30 points. Giannis another double for the Greek Freak. Bucks have moved up to the 4th spot in the Eastern Conference standings right now. If that's something you kind of follow along at this point in time, as we get a little bit closer to that halfway mark, we're inching closer and closer to that. So, but last night too, Giannis passing Walter Davis to move up to number 55 on the NBA's all-time scoring list. He's already at 55. Who's okay? I just want to bring this up to see where it's at. So we know LeBron's number 1. We know Kareem's number 2. Karl Malone's 3. Kobe is 4. Dame is on this list. Damian Lillard's 38th. So Dame time's up there. He's probably going to pass. Where's the point? Yeah, he's probably going to pass Clyde the Glide Drexler, who's at 37. Can I go? Yeah, I can go to the next page here. Who's next on this list ahead of Giannis? So Clifford. Oh, remember Clifford Robinson? Headband Clifford Robinson. Oh boy, yeah, he's going to pass him here probably in the next couple games. How quick can he get up into the top 50? John Stockton's at 52 for crying out loud. So 51, Antoine Jameson, the former Tar Heels, at 20,042. Giannis is at 19,535. Yeah, there's a real shot Giannis is going to be in the top 50 when it's all said and done, and he will have done it in like 800 some odd games, which is compared to these other guys, he is way ahead of the pace here. Now, George Gervin, he had 20,708 career points in just 791 games. So looking at who is a lot of these guys over 1,000 games, except for Jerry West, 932 games, but he's 25th all-time leading scorer to Steph Curry, 988-28. Man, Jerry West, think about that too. Interesting. All right. Speaking of which, let's do a little throwback Thursday here. We're going to get back to some more texts here as well. I got a couple more. Today is Brian Gutekunst's end of the season presser. If you could ask Goody one question, what would it be? Text those on over. Email it to me. Comment on the video stream. Whatever is easier for you. Join the boys and maybe some girls over there too. Join the crew over there on the video stream. But a couple things here for or Throwback Thursday, 1896, just a few years ago, the first 5-player college basketball game was played at Iowa City in Iowa. 1961, Mickey Mantle signed a contract which made him the highest paid baseball player in the American League for the 61 season. A cool $75,000. So that's those are just a couple of nuggets on our Throwback Thursday for you this morning. Big Worm, morning Dano comment to Goody. Let's go out and get Hassan Reddick, Javarius Ward, and finally T. Higgins. Question: Packers were a red hot team going into the playoffs last year and scared some folks. What do you think were the inconsistencies this year going into the playoffs? Good question. Good question, Big Worm. That would be a good one for Goody there. Thanks for sending that on over. All right, keep those coming. Baseball wise, just really quick, I want to hit up a little Brewers talk, and we'll probably really deep dive into it tomorrow with Brandon and such. So I know headlines and wise that it may not be a big thing when you see Brewers had 29 international prospects. However, I think this is a big deal for the Brewers in the sense of this is another avenue of how the Brewers can compete in the current landscape of Major League Baseball. So the Brewers, 3 of their 29 players are in the top 50, are top 50 prospects per Major League Baseball pipeline. 2 outfielders and a shortstop. Led by Kenny Felon, who is apparently a speedy, power-hitting outfielder from the Dominican Republic. Then Braylon Antunes, I hope I'm pronouncing it right or at least close. He's from Venezuela. He's actually from the same hometown as Jackson Chourio. Again, remember, this is how the Brewers got Jackson Chourio, was these international signing periods. The shortstop, Christopher Acosta, is listed under, but Fenelon is ranked number 36, and Antunes is 42, and Acosta is 45. This, to me, again, I feel like is an important avenue for the Brewers to remain competitive. They've got to figure out. We talked about this last year when they signed Jackson Chourio to a 10-year deal. Was it 8 years? Could be up to 10-year deal, but giving him a contract before he even played an inning at the major league level, like a big contract, and just spent a hot minute at AAA. And we talked about last year. It was like, this has got to be a way maybe for the Brewers to compete with the big spenders in the world, because they're not going to go out there and spend $700 million on a player. They're not going to spend $600 million on a player. They're not going to spend $500 million on a player. So what are the other avenues that this Brewers team can compete with? It's signing some of your younger guys to cheaper deals that may be a little bit of a risk, because you're putting a lot of your eggs in one basket and you don't quite know maybe what you got in the guy for sure yet. But you're hoping that it's going to work out in the end where it's like, okay, yeah, we got a pretty good bargain with that. And the other part is, drafting and developing well, of course, bringing up your guys in that. But the other part too is this international signing period and really focusing on that and trying to find younger talent that may be overlooked, be overlooked from other teams. Trying to find those players. Sure seems like, they kind of hit on a guy named Jackson Chourio. And the Brewers have invested a lot into this, especially when it comes to Venezuela. I was reading a little bit here from Brewers.com, and as I know, a few clubs have been able to scout Venezuela as well as Milwaukee has over the last decade. Jackson Chourio, Jefferson Cuero, the number 1 prospect for the Brewers right now. Luis Lard, number 18. Jorge Quintana, number 26. Brewers, this is a way for the Brewers to try to find those players and bringing them in, maybe getting ready to contribute at a young age, at an early age. They've got to look at these different avenues and be successful in these different avenues in order to compete with some of these teams that can just go out there with an empty checkbook and sign these guys. Brewers can't do that. So what do they got to do? They got to draft well. They got to develop well. They got to scout well. Not just in the great USA, but they got to scout internationally, and they got to hit on those players, and they got to trust their system. They got to trust their system that they can mold these young players and turn them into major leaguers. They got to invest in those sources and those coaches and those development programs. So we may not see these, I'm going to still call them kids, but we may not see these kids. We may not see these youngsters for a couple years, few years from now. But it's definitely, may not be the biggest day in terms of Brewers fans or Brewers people, but it was a big day for the Brewers franchise. Because I guarantee you, they're hoping that these guys, a lot of these guys, maybe specifically the top 3 guys in the top 50, are going to be contributors for a while, and big-time contributors for the Brewers for a while. So maybe kind of keep an eye on, or remember those names in the back of your mind just a little bit. You can get the whole list of their international signing class. Brewers posted it up and such, and we've got it on the social medias and that, but may not be a big deal to fans. You may forget these names. Guarantee you, though, the Brewers, they value this a lot. They put a lot of resources into something like this. And I think they have to, because that's got to be the way that they compete in Major League Baseball. All right, we'll take a quick break here, and we'll talk some hoops. Bolks, dominating win last night We'll hit that up coming up after these quick words. At Hy-Vee, they're more than just a grocery store. They are your one-stop shop for everything you need all in one place. From fresh produce and top-quality meats to your favorite snacks and household essentials, they have got you covered. Need a quick dinner solution? Check out their delicious ready-to-eat meals or swing by their in-store bakery and deli for made fresh daily options. And don't forget to fill up the gas tank and take advantage of Hy-Vee's fuel savers. Plus, while you're there, grab some Man Cave Lights in the wine and spirits department. Grab some Dan Good burgers over in the meat department, and you're set to go for some tailgating and some football this weekend. With friendly service, great prices, and convenience you can count on, Hy-Vee is here to make your day easier. Our resident muskie fishing expert, Jake, with a quick message saying, really a hope Jeff Halfley doesn't leave the Packers. I'm a little bit nervous about that, but ultimately I do think he will stay in Green Bay. Another message on the social media pages over there. What I would ask Brian Gutekunst is, what is his biggest um, priority this upcoming offseason? That's from Adam on the socials over there. All right, yeah, keep those coming. We'll get to that. I'll go back to the texting line here in just a little bit, see if we got any more sitting in there too. So, but switching gears here to hoops. By the way, just before we get to Bucks, college wise, for a little WIAC action out there, Blue Gold men's basketball team. What Coach Zach and Coach Adam, man, I love that program. They're so much fun to watch. But last night, going up against the number one team in the country on their home court, UW Platteville at Bo Ryan Court, taking the lead, had the lead at half. Just fell a little bit short in the second half. But if you have not gone and watched this team, like at Sonanteg or something, there's a vibe with this team. There's a vibe that Coach Adam and Coach Zach have with this team, and they're going to be so much fun to watch in the next few years here. They're going to be at Sonanteg next week, and it's a big game against Point, and it's also youth night over there too. So take the family, take the kiddos over there. That game's at 5 o'clock too, so it's not even that late. 5 o'clock night next Saturday over at Sonanteg. Fantastic place to go watch a basketball game. Women's team fell at Sonanteg last night against Platteville. Stout women's team, though, top 25 ranked stout women's team, did pick up a win against lacrosse. Men's team fell to a top 25 ranked lacrosse team. Bucks wise, picking up a impressive win last night. A dominating win, because we went through some of the quotes yesterday from Giannis and Dame after their win the other night, saying we need to bring this same type of intensity. We need to bring this same type of energy night in and night out. Not just sometimes, not just once in a while, but we need to do this all the time. And it sure looked like Giannis and Dame followed their words, because the Bucks jumped out, 34-16 after the first, and cruised to a 122-93 victory against the Orlando Magic, and flip-flop spots in Eastern Conference standings with them too. But Dame, 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, another double-double for the Greek Freak, 26 points, 11 rebounds. Giannis shooting 11 of 15 from the field too. Bucks, they only shot the three 12 times last night. 12 times. And when I was looking at some of the numbers after the game and such, and I saw the fact that they only shot the three ball 12 times, that's the number that stood out to me. That was the number I was like, dang. Okay. 12 times. That's a game. AJ Green played 17 minutes coming off the bench. He only attempted 1 3-pointer. Dame was 3 of 3 from 3. Bobby Portis was 2 of 3 from 3. And the Bucks made 7 of their 12 3-point attempts for 58.3%. But not too often, especially a team like the Bucks, when you got a team that's got Damian Lillard on there who will chuck up a 3, quite a few threes. You've got AJ Green, who is a very good 3-point shooter. Bobby Portis is a stretch 4 that'll shoot from the corner too. But that was the number. I was like, oh, okay. Only 12 3-pointers. But they attacked. They attacked inside. Overall, the Bucks shot a whopping 62.5% from the field last night. That is something that is not going to happen every night. They're not going to shoot 62.5% from the field every night. That would be freaking awesome if they did. But odds are that's not going to happen. But just a very I don't efficient. I don't want to use the word efficient either because it almost kind of downplays it a little bit. But it was a game that flowed from start to finish for the Bucks, and it was just a solid performance overall. Elsewhere, you had Bobby Portis putting up 14 off the bench. Chris Middleton, 21 minutes off the bench. He was 5 of 8 from the field, 14 14 points, 6 assists. If you were listening or watching the game too, I mean, there was times when here's you want a crazy number and how it kind of relates to the connection that Giannis and Middleton have. That's why I keep saying the whole Middleton, is he going to be traded? Is he going to be gone? Sort of thing. The wild card, fans want him probably gone and move on from the contract and that. The wild card in this thing is going to be Giannis and his feelings towards it. But there's no denying, though, too, when those two are on the court together, when Middleton and Giannis are on the court together, they've got this chemistry. And they've played ball for a long time together, but they've got this nonverbal communication. I mean, it's like Rodgers and Devontae back in the heyday a few years ago with Green Bay, back shoulder throws and all that sort of stuff. It's like they know how to read each other. And at one point last night, Chris and Giannis in the two-man game, they had scored every single time they went with it. And Frank Madden, Locked On Bucks podcast, had this to note. Giannis and Chris together have a 122 offensive rating this season. Take away Dame off that, and it jumps up to 144. That's how incognito those two are together. It's just the issue is Middleton's availability, Middleton's health, the ability to stay on the court, the ability to have the availableness to be able to play in these games. It hasn't been like that the last couple of years. We can't count on that. And I don't think there's anybody in this world that when you look at the contract Giannis or that Middleton has, it's like, is he living up to it? No. When he's on the court and when he's with Giannis, he's a good player. He's a really good player. But for 20 minutes a night and for coming off the bench, is that worth it? No, it's not. And it stinks because if Giannis, or I keep saying Giannis, if Middleton was healthy and there was no issues with those ankles and there was no tendonitis and he could play 30 minutes a night and he could play in this role of this point forward where, yes, he could score. I still think he's got a heck of a mid-range game. But you're seeing this other element to his game where he's being that point forward and dishing it and playing that two-man game with the Greek Freak. It's fun basketball to watch when those two guys are going. But, again, it's the availability. Can he be out there every game? Can he be out there for more than 25 minutes? Right now, Middleton, is it fair to say Middleton is the primary six-man on his team? With, you got Bobby Portis in there. But at this point, Middleton's kind of the primary six-man. I know he says he wants to get back to the starting lineup. The goal is still to get back in the starting lineup and such. But I think right now, if you've got to manage your minutes with Chris Middleton, this is the best way to do it. You got to get something out of him because I think he still has a role with this team. But not for that price tag. I don't know if that's something that they can figure out after the offseason and such, but hey. As we mentioned, the Bucks in the standings, Eastern Conference standings, now up to number 4, flipping spots there with the Magic with that win. We are approaching close to the halfway mark here for this Bucks season. 2 games away from the halfway mark. They're 22-17. Math tells me that's 39 games played, right? So we're a couple games away yet until we get to that end of the second quarter, halfway through the season, grades and assessments and all that. And that should be an interesting conversation when we get to that probably next week. When you look at the first half of this Bucks season, how would you assess it? How would you grade it? and kind of have an eye to the second half of the season because I feel like this is still a chance for the Bucks to rack up a bunch of wins here with their schedule coming up. You got the Raptors on Friday. You've got Philly on Sunday. You've got New Orleans. You've got Miami, which is kind of just a mess right now with the whole Jimmy Butler situation. Then you do a West Coast trip towards the end of the month against the Clippers, against the Jazz, against Portland, against San Antonio. Then you got a couple of tough back-to-back games to open up February, Memphis and Oklahoma City, back-to-back. But there's this stretch of games that kind of starts Friday with Toronto and such to rack up some wins and to maybe kind of, I know it's kind of early yet too, but really maybe get into a rhythm at this point in time. Timberwolves fell last night to the Warriors. It was a good game. Warriors picking up the 1-point victory against the T-Wolves. When you're looking at the standings in the Western Conference, if you're a Timberwolves fan at this point, Timberwolves are hitting or sitting at that A spot, 21-19 overall. I got to imagine, once we get closer to the NBA trade deadline, it's going to be interesting to see these two teams, both the Bucks and the Timberwolves, how they approach the trade deadline. For a refresher, it's February 6th, so we got a few weeks yet. It's less than a month, but we got a few weeks left here. But it'll be interesting. I think it's fair to say I think Timberwolves probably not playing at that expectation they and fans had. Maybe looking back at that trade of sending Karl Anthony Towns to New York and bringing in Randall and Dante DiVincenzo. I'm sure there's some T-Wolves fans saying, okay, how much has that helped us? Is that working out in that? You're sitting there at 8th, considering the postseason run they had last year. There's some higher expectations for this team this year. So it'll be interesting to see what Minnesota does if they do anything to maybe help improve that team. And then, of course, the Bucks here. I was reading a little bit. This was from Bleacher Report. I know Bleacher Report's not always the greatest here, but names to watch, they said, for trade deadline: Bobby, Middleton, Brook Lopez. The goal is to keep Giannis happy. And again, if part of that goal of keeping Giannis happy is keeping Chris Middleton, that factors into this. They said the Bucks started the season poorly, but rallied to win the NBA Cup. The squad hasn't been as sharp since winning. Records seem to quell any momentum for an earth-shaking Giannis blockbuster. Instead, look for the Bucks to explore whatever opportunities they can find to improve, despite having little to offer in picks and young, desirable talent. It isn't easy to see the team finding the value it needs in return for Middleton or Lopez. Perhaps the key to a deal is another team coveting Portis, but the buzz on that has been relatively quiet. I don't think if they make a trade, I don't think Portis, Middleton, and Lopez are guys on there. I do think they want to try to move Connaughton, but with his contract and such, you're going to have to attach something to that makes it a little bit more desirable for some teams out there. And I just don't know what that is right now for the Bucks that would move that needle for somebody to say, we'll take on Pat Connaughton plus whatever else you're giving. I don't know what that is. Because I don't see this team moving on this season from Lopez, Portis, and Middleton right now. All right, before we get to receiver for last call, I need some more receive or defers. Send those, text them on over 715-830-1912. Let's go back to a few messages here. Another Dan says, what I would ask Goody today is, does he view a wide receiver as a big need in free agency, factoring in the injuries to Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs and the overall play from the wide receivers this year? Another one. We've got Eric chiming in saying, the question I would have for the general manager today is, what will he do to help improve the pass rush? Another texter saying, I really hope Jeff Halfley uh, doesn't do well in his interview with the Jets. I want to see Green Bay being able to build something with the defensive coordinator, not just have a one and done with him. I agree. I want to see that. I want to see some continuity. I want to see it build a little bit more. And if there was a coordinator I would rather keep, if I had to pick one between Steno and Halfley, I know Steno's Marshfield native and such, but I'd probably pick Halfley. Yeah, I know I would pick Halfley. All right, we'll get back to more later. We got to take a quick break, and then we'll finish up the second hour with some receiver defer. Also, don't forget, send me your questions for Jake Bolks, our DNR warden buddy. He's going to be joining us at 8:30, answering your questions for our outdoor chats. Quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. With the temperatures a bit colder these days, your vehicle may be working a lot harder this winter season. Add in the potential for poor road conditions, and winter driving can be tough on your vehicle. That's where ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you out. Make sure your vehicle is prepared for this winter season with a new oil change to keep your engine running smooth, and that you have the proper tires for those snow covered roads. ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you out with both of those. Just give them a call to set up your appointment today. 715 514 4501. Remember, ASAP Used Auto Parts located on Menominee Street in Eau Claire. All right, we got about 15 minutes for a little receive or defer. So, a big thanks to all of you who have sent in your receive or defer questions over there. We'll go start. I got to go a little bit earlier because we had some in the last hour or such. So I got to scroll through our texting line. So bear with me here a little bit. This is where I could use a producer to help out a little bit. But we've got Tim saying receive or defer. The Packers will trade Jair instead of releasing Jair. Defer. I'll defer. I think honestly, if somebody offered them like a late pick, they would take it. I think they would run to the table for that. But I don't know of a team that would be willing to take on the current contract of Jair at this point. So that's why I'm deferring it, because you factor that as part of the equation. So I don't think a team would be willing to take on that contract. But if there was a team that said, hey, we'll give you a sixth, and I know that'll probably piss off some Packers fans, like, you only got a sixth for Jair, you factor in the contract. You factor that part into it. So I'll defer it. I think he gets released now, and his time's in Green Bay's over with. I think if you could get anything in return from him, whether it's a late pick or such, yeah, you run home with that and you take that. But I don't see that happening right now. Receive or defer. Romeo Dobbs plays another down for the Packers. This is going to be something in the offseason to really, and LaFleur acknowledged it too. Anytime, a player gets concussion, it's concerning, but now two of them in the same season. I don't know health-wise. I'm not going to pretend to speculate and know anything about his health. I don't know what he's thinking either, but I don't know if this question is referring to not only just with his concussions, but also the suspension earlier in the season and that. I'm not trying to cop out, but I'll say this. I don't think it's as easy as, yes, he's back for sure. I will receive that I think he's back, but I wouldn't put it like at 100%. I do think there might be you factor in the concussion stuff, and I think you do have to factor in, what had happened earlier in the season too. But I say he's back, but it does give me a split-second pause at that point. Receiver defer, the Packers will re-sign Josh Myers. Packers love Josh Myers. I think the Packers love Josh Myers more than maybe what some fans love Josh Myers. But, in the last couple of years, more so in the last year or so, I think we started to learn a little bit more about the value that Josh Myers has, or maybe not the values, how much Josh Myers is respected within this locker room, within this team. The Matt LaFleur, when he listed 11 the 11 guys he kind of leans on for the vibe, Josh Myers was on that list. We've heard Jordan Love talk about, Josh Myers and the importance from him, and LaFleur in his podcast too talked about the importance of Myers up there, especially, being in the same communication with the quarterback and calling out the formations and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like he is viewed maybe in a little bit more of a favorable light from a lot of Packers fans. However, I also think it's going to take a nice contract to keep him, and Green Bay's got the space. But I almost feel like this is going to be a John Runyon type of thing, maybe from last year, where Runyon goes out, he gets a value. Giants obviously signed him to a nice deal, maybe brings it back to Green Bay, and maybe Green Bay matches it. Maybe Green Bay counters, or maybe Green Bay says, thank you for your services. If I had to pick one direction, I say no, he won't be back. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do lock him up and bring him back because it sure seems like from everything that you hear that he is so valued within that locker room and he's so valued on that team. Receive or defer. Receive or defer. So I've had this one a couple times. Receive or defer. Matt LaFleur should give up play calling duties. So yeah, somebody had asked. I think somebody even threw that out as a question for Goody. Now again, Matt LaFleur indicated in his podcast he is not. And as Matt Schneidman even noted in there too, he's like he shouldn't. I defer that, giving up play calling duties. And I get it, but I will acknowledge this: the game management and and time situations has to get better. That is definitely been a problem this year for Green Bay. Was a problem for Green Bay this year, and that's something they've got to figure out. There's no question about it. Not absolving him of that by any means because it was a weakness this year. Whether that's having a game management coach, I don't know. But that is definitely one of the things that he's got to get better at. But in terms of giving up play calling duty, I'm at a defer right now with that. I don't know. I'm at a defer with that right now. I still think Matt LaFleur is one of the better play callers in this league, one of the more talented play callers in this league. Do I think he could be better in situational stuff and understanding, game management type stuff that affects play calls? 100%. 100%. But I don't want to see that. I don't want to see play calling get stripped yet from LaFleur. A lot of Packer ones here. Still reeling into the offseason here. Receive or defer. Receive or defer. The Packers will spend big on a defensive lineman in free agency. I think they get one. Now, I don't know if it'll be like highest paid or top 5, when you say spend big, are you thinking top 5? You thinking, the highest? I do think they sign one. I think when you go back to even LaFleur season ender where he said, he envisioned his defense getting home with 4, rushing just 4, putting pressure on the quarterback with 4 and playing a little bit more coverage and acknowledged it didn't work out that way. I'm curious to see if Goody is going to talk anything about that too, but I do feel like Green Bay is going to get a defensive lineman in free agency. I just you got a little bit of money to play with this year. And I think, if that's something that is a big hole on this defense and you still want to get the most out of your defense, the best out of your defense. Well, there's a lot of positives this year. There's no question. There was a lot of positives. But if you can even take another step, I think you have to approach that. And I think a lot of us would agree it's probably there. Corner is definitely a need too, right? I mean, that's for sure going to be a need. That might be, maybe a veteran and a draft pick over there too. But I guess if I were to adjust the receiver defer question for argument's sakes, would I rather see the Packers get a defensive lineman with their first pick or in free agency? I think I'd go free agency because at least you know a little bit more what you're getting with that player. And let's be real here. The first round picks haven't really been big time contributors right away. I mean, I think that's fair, isn't it? So, who that is, we'll see. But I do feel like they're going to go out there and potentially get a defensive lineman, defensive tackle, defensive end, or something like that. I do. I that's what my gut is saying. Receive or defer. The Bucks will make a trade before the trade deadline. I will receive that they make a trade, but it's not going to be a trade that moves the needle. It's not going to be Jimmy Butler. It's not going to be where they trade Portis or Middleton or anything like that. I think it could be a trade that is, maybe just for some bench production. I don't think it's one that moves the needle. I just I don't see that because part of it is like what do the Bucks have to offer at this point? Not a whole lot. Not really a whole lot out there. So I'm hesitating here a little bit because I'm not like if I had to put a percentage on it, I'm like 55. I'm at like a 55% that they make a trade because part of that is like what do they have to offer? Who can they move? What would they get in return for that? I feel like they're kind of settling in on a rotation right now where, Portis, AJ Green, Middleton are kind of your main ones off the bench there. Gary Trent Jr. is mixed in there. So I don't think it'd be a whole lot. I don't think it'd be a whole lot there. I agree with one of the texters. I think somebody also had texted this earlier. Milton Williams, please. That seems. I feel like once more Packers fans kind of get into free agency when the season's over with, and they look at the offseason and they look at some potential guys out there. Milton Williams is going to be a name that I think Packers fans are going to clamor towards. Defensive tackle, Eagles over there. I mean, his pass rush win rate was up there. He's younger. So I feel like that is going to be the name that a lot of fans are going to gravitate towards and say, give me Milton Williams. Like that's going to be the guy that they're going to want to put on. And if they get him, I'm A-okay with that one. Sign me up. I'm good with it. But I feel like that's going to be, last year was Xavier McKinney, right? We knew that Green Bay wanted or Green Bay needed to get a safety. So who was number one on the wish list for a lot of people? It was Xavier McKinney. But quite a few of them said, yeah, I don't know that it's my guy, but I don't know if Green Bay is going to spend to get him. And they got him. So it like hit the mark on a lot of people's wish lists. And I feel like Milton's going to be that guy for Packers fans this year. So remember that name. If you're not quite familiar, just put it in the back of your mind. That might be a guy, if he's, going to be available out there, that maybe potentially Green Bay goes out and targets. Do I got time for a couple more? I got time for a couple more. Receive or defer. Receive or defer. The Brewers will make at least a free agent signing or trade before they open camp in less than a month. Pitchers and catchers do report less than a month. I will edit this a little bit to say when you say make a move like a signing, it's you're talking about one that's like maybe a guy that's going to be on the 40-man roster, going to be on the regular season roster, not necessarily, signing some guy and just inviting him to camp and a tryout sort of thing. You know what? Maybe I'm a little too optimistic in this. I'll receive. I still want to see them get another power bat. I still want to see them get a veteran power bat. Don't know where that's going to come from, but I'm going to maybe I'm a little optimistic, but I'm going to hold out that they still get one more bat to put in that lineup. Receiver defer. Do you trade Malik Willis this offseason? Defer. I know that it's the thing when you have a backup quarterback play well for a stretch of games. It's like you trade him to get some draft capital here. No, you don't have to trade him. If he's under contract this year, keep him for another year in case something happens to Jordan Love. I don't want to get into a situation where we're like, oh, crap. Remember, it was last year in preseason. Who's our backup quarterback? Who's it going to be? And I don't want that again just to get a 5th-round pick. If Malik Willis is under contract for another year, keep him. Unless somebody just offers you something that you literally can't turn down, like a second round pick or something ridiculous like that. Okay, that's different. But if you're going to get like a 6th round pick, I think Malik gives you more value keeping him on your team that way. I understand that you want to cash in when something's trending upward, when that value's high. But I don't want to get into a situation where if something happens to Love again, where he misses a game or two, and we don't have an option at backup quarterback. Malik played well this year. That doesn't guarantee he's going to play well again next year. But I'd rather have Malik Willis going into next year as my backup quarterback than somebody who's not on the roster right now, like a rookie next year. All right. Thank you for the receiver defer questions. We're 2 hours in, flying on by. One more to go. Half hour from now, we'll talk with Jake Bolks. Last call for your questions for our DNR award, and you got to text them in. Hit me up, 715-830-1912. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Kicking off the final hour right now. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios. A big thanks for tuning in. If it's on the dials, radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, you can stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Download the app, take it on the go. You got your smart devices, video streams, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. You can even pull that up on your TV if you want. Like, just pull it like a smart TV. A lot of people got smart TVs now, right? YouTube app, look us up, pull it up that way. So simple over there. You can see this ugly mug of yours, or ugly mug of mine, excuse me, not yours, mine. Okay. You don't have one. I have one. But there you go. Coming up at about 25 minutes, a little less than 25 minutes, Jake Bolks, DNR Warden, will be joining us answering your questions. Again, final call. I gotta get your questions in right now so I can get them over to Jake. So hit us up with the text with those questions there. We'll get back to some more football talk as well. I missed this receiver deferred, and I wanted to get to it, and I apologize to Jason who had sent this in earlier. But the Baseball Hall of Fame class is going to be announced next Tuesday, right? 21st. That's next Tuesday. And Jason asked, receiver deferred, do you think Ichiro will be a unanimous decision or a unanimous pick? I think he should be. It's just with Baseball Hall of Fame voters, I have no idea. And the wild card in this, so like a few years ago, I would have said no. But the fact that when Mariano Rivera was unanimous maybe changes it a little bit. I still don't have a good grasp on this. Ichiro's going to get in. I mean, I think he's going to get in. He better get in. I think there's going to be a voter or two that is not going to put him on a first ballot, and he won't get 100%. Like that to me is what just. That's another thing that grinds my gears is Hall of Fame voting and such. But I think Ichiro gets in. CC Sabathia, I think, is going to get in. I think there's a movement for that. After that, does Andy Pettitte get in? Carlos Beltran, Andrew Jones is on there, Chase Utley, David Wright. Gosh, David Wright's already up for a Hall of Fame. Billy Wagner. The Andy Pettitte thing. Remember, he was a guy, too, that whole steroid stuff. He acknowledged it, and he apologized and all that. But you don't hear his name, attached to the others like a Manny or an A-Rod. And I think Andy did it the right way. Acknowledged it, apologized for it, moved on and still played. And you don't hear that really anymore. You don't hear that when you hear Andy Pettitte's name. He didn't draw it out. He didn't make a big, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. I mean, he went up there and said, I made a mistake. I did this. And kind of people, I think, kind of moved on and forgot about it a little bit. And I think that's benefit for him when it comes to the Hall of Fame vote. I'm looking at some of the ballots right now that baseball writers turned in, and Andy's name's checked off on there. Like, they voted for him. But, yeah, unanimous. I'll defer because I just think there's going to be just maybe a one or two that's going to be an idiot about it. I think he gets in the 90s, all right? Ichiro's got to be in the 90s. It's got to be in the 90s. So, apologize, Jason. I didn't see that one. Or I saw it and I forgot a little bit earlier, but I definitely wanted to get to that. So, all right. We've been asking this question all morning long with Brian Gutekunst holding his season-ending press conference today. If there was a question you could ask Goody, what would that question be? So a big thanks. We've been going through them all morning long. You can continue to send those on over if you would like. We'll get to some more of those a little bit later. Mine, again, I had a list, and it's probably probably similar to a lot of you out there. Probably the same for a lot of you out there. But, and again, to kind of put a little bit of a background on this, we know we're not going to learn a whole lot, right? He's not going to tip his hands. He's not going to divulge his plan for free agency, who he's going to cut, who he's going to, do this or re-sign. We're not going to find that stuff out today. Maybe we can get a little bit of a glimpse into the mindset of what the plan might be, but we're not going to find out some big secrets today. But for argument's sake and for discussion's sakes, if you could ask a question and maybe get a truthful answer or get an answer from him, what would those questions be? And like for me, just a handful of them would be, when you look at your wide receivers, I don't think there's a whole lot of argument. You've got some talent in there for sure, but factoring in the injuries with Christian Watson, who knows with Romeo Dobbs' concussion and such. But even before then, too, would you look at bringing in a veteran wide receiver to kind of maybe lead that group or number one target, air quotes? So how high of a priority is it to maybe look at the free agent market for a wide receiver? Maybe it's not, but I'd like to know that. Obviously, the Jair question. You bringing him back? Has he already punched his ticket out of Green Bay? What's your plan to maybe get another pass rusher? Are you going to invest in that? Is that something that you're going to be looking for, and it's like number one on your priority list? What is that priority list for free agency? And what's the mindset heading into the draft in April? Like, because it sure seems when you look at the last few years, first round picks, in my mind, in my opinion, they've been based off of potential, like maybe a little bit raw, but the ceiling's high. Potential's really high for that guy. Does that change a little bit? Will it change? And you can call it a safer pick if you want, but maybe you go and get a guy that, all right, that guy's going to be a day one contributor. That wasn't the case for Van Ness. Quay was a day one contributor. Devontae Wyatt wasn't. Heck, even Rashawn Gary wasn't. Darnell Savage was a starter right away. Not the greatest starter, but impact player right away. And a lot of you had some other good ones over there too. So if you have any more, I'm definitely curious and definitely want to see what you got over there. But we talked a little bit too about Matt LaFleur's podcast, the Matt LaFleur podcast from The Athletic. Matt Schneidman over there does it with him. But Matt Schneidman had asked him, who are the players in your locker room that you kind of lean on to kind of get like a little bit of a vibe check and such. And that's kind of been something that has been trending on Twitter right now for the name that he didn't throw out there, or maybe names, if you got a couple of them that weren't on there. The names that he threw out there that he kind of uses as leans on to get a pulse, a locker room pulse. Jordan Love, okay, quarterback, right? Josh Jacobs, Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Keyshawn Nixon, Xavier McKinney. In the name that, and as Matt posted on his Twitter account, interesting one missing. Everybody's pointing to Jair, and that's probably the name that everybody thought of right away. Now, could it be the fact that, Matt LaFleur was asked that question and he has to think about some guys off the top of his head and he just missed Jair? Absolutely. It could just be as simple as that. Because if you listen to it, he's trying to think off the top of his head. It's not like he's rattling these names off. Hey, Matt, who are the guys that you think about in the locker room? Oh, that's easy. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, blah, 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 blah. You listen to it, you could tell he's like thinking of the guys. So it could be just a brain fart. Or something I kind of lean towards a little bit is obviously the guys that he mentioned positive impacts he's had conversations with, or he's talked with, that is stuck in his mind. Like they're fully planted in his brain right now. And the fact that maybe a Jair's not on there tells you maybe that impression isn't good. Maybe he doesn't go to him, and that's why he didn't mention him. But I do think there's something. Maybe it's being bigger than what it is, which tends to happen a lot of times, and I fully acknowledge that. But, while you're thinking there and you're going through your roster, and I know there's a lot of guys, you're thinking through your roster and you're going through them, and one of your top guys, Jair, you'd think would be up there on that list. And yes, I know he's been injured in that, but he's still around the team, still in the locker room. I do think it tells you something. And it's weird. Like, and I'm glad. Was it you, Jeremy, that texted in? And we'll probably never know the answer, but I'm glad Jeremy asked the question. Well, why is Jair upset? And I think that's a very good question. Why is he? Was it Jeff? Or was it Jeff? Yeah, Jeff. I'm sorry. Because you go back earlier in the season too, even, and you go, after their wins, after these Packer wins, you go and watch some of the videos in the locker room, when they hand out the game balls and that. Jair was the guy that was kind of the main guy breaking down the team, huddling them up, breaking them down. Looked like veteran role, veteran leadership. And this is a guy that is all Zen, meditation. He was the guy that took Quay Walker under his wing after Quay Walker's rookie year, where he had a couple of ejections and such. And Jair was the guy that brought Quay under his wing and taught him meditation and all that. And by all accounts, it's worked because we haven't had any issues with Quay since his rookie year. So what is it? Is it a disagreement with how they went about with his knee injury? Did he feel like that Green Bay go to Zadarius Smith a few weeks ago? That's his beef with Green Bay, apparently, is how Green Bay handled his back injury. Is that the beef with Jair? Is how Green Bay's handled his knee injury? Is there something more to it? We'll probably never know. We may get one side of it eventually. But something obviously has happened. And from a guy that at the beginning of the year, and the thing is too, in the offseason, it was like when they brought in Xavier McKinney, it was Xavier McKinney and Jair attached at the hip. I remember Jeff Halfley talking about it was those two guys sitting next to each other in the meetings and, kind of leading the defensive backs group and such. And these corners emulating Jair and his his dance celebration routine, whatever the heck you want to call it. By the way, I haven't seen that in a while. I haven't seen a corner do that in a while for Green Bay. But I mean, you could tell like he was having an influence on the Carrington Valentines and these other corners and such. And I don't know. Obviously, something's off. Something is different. And it stinks because I like Jair. I like him as a player. I don't know him personally. I like him as a player. When he's healthy, he's a good player. He's a really good player. I like the swag that he brings. I know it rubs some fans the wrong way, but I honestly feel like if you got to play corner in this league and you got to go up against some of these wide receivers, one, you have to have some swag, but you better be able to back it up though too. It's one thing to just sit there and talk and do this, but if you stink as a player, then you lose a little bit of respect. But more times than not, he backed it up. And it stinks because he's a talented player. The injuries have derailed it the last couple of years. The availability of him not being able to be on the field, it sucks. And I think they need a player like a Jair with this defense. I think they need a corner of his caliber on this defense. So moving on from him from just a defensive standpoint is going to stink. It's going to suck. But I think it's clearly obvious that something is going on. And is it having an effect with the other players? Again, Goody won't tell us. Matt LaFleur won't tell us. At some point, we may hear the one side from Jair, kind of like we've done with Zadarius and other players who have left the team in that. but it just stinks. It does. It really does. Couple more questions from people over here that are listeners, excuse me, before we get to quick break and get to Mr. Bolks coming up here. Mike, another Mike. We got a few mics here. We got Mike saying that I would ask Goody at his presser his thoughts on Eric Stokes. Well, I mean, speaking of the corner position, yeah, I mean, Eric Stokes was a first round pick by Goody. Was it straight up injuries that have affected his play? Is that a little bit more of a mindset there too? Again, you feel bad for him because if it is injuries that has affected his play, it sucks for him. It stinks for him because his rookie year, he wasn't a starter right away. Again, another first round pick that wasn't a starter, but that year he was kind of thrown into that role because of injuries. One was the Jair in that, and I believe that was the Rasul year too. I'll have to double check that, but played well in his rookie year, and I think it gave us as fans and the franchise some optimism going forward. It's like, okay. Then he suffers the injury in Detroit, and just ever since then hasn't been able to get back from that. And I don't know if that's the reason of his lack of play this year is just that because he hasn't been able to get to that point to play at a high level. Is there something else? But yeah, that's what's Goody's thoughts on Eric Stokes? What's Goody's thoughts on Keyshawn saying that he wants to focus on playing outside corner full time and stop with the kick returns? Does he feel like Keyshawn can be, cornerback one, as he said? Another texter here says what I would ask the general manager is what he plans to do with some of the offensive line questions. Do you bring back Josh Myers? Where does Morgan fit? How about some depth? Yeah, I mean, at least I think it's a foregone conclusion. They're probably going to draft a lineman or two just for depth purposes and keeping that up. They seem to do it every year, every couple of years for sure. That is going to be something to watch as we get in the offseason, mini camps and that. If Myers isn't back, who is the starter? Are they going to give Jacob Monk first crack at it? Do they move Jenkins to that spot? I know last offseason, some of the talk was that could Zach Tom move to center because there was a belief that Zach Tom could be a Hall of Fame type of center. But I don't think Zach Tom wants to move from tackle. He's kind of insinuated that. Plus, he's kind of insinuated that doesn't think his agent does because, let's be real, tackles make more money. So could it be a Morgan? Could it be Sean Ryan that moves over there? Morgan's going to get a shot to be a starter. He's going to get a shot to be a starter. The question is where is that going to be? Because it kind of looks like it's going to be a guard position. So if it's a guard position, can Ryan go over there center? Would they move Elton Jenkins over there? I don't know if they'd move Elton Jenkins, but could they move maybe Sean Ryan over there? Or maybe Morgan could play that. Somewhere in the interior. All right. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to do some outdoor chats with Mr. Bolks. He's coming up after these quick words.
Will handle the rest. With Mako's national reach and community focus, you're not just getting top-notch service. You're actually getting a partner you can trust. Don't let those little imperfections add up. You want to keep your car on the road. You want to give it a little bit of love. And you can do so with the great folks at Mako. Visit your local Mako today and see how they can refresh your ride. Go in, get the free estimate, and the expert technicians will take care of everything after that. Uh-oh, better get Mako.
Let's do a little throwback Thursday to last weekend. Let me ask you, how did you do on your underdog pick'ems? Wait, you didn't make any? Man, what are you waiting for? Let me tell you why and how easy it is to use and win with Underdog. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. And with Underdog's double flex option, you can even take 2 losses and turn them into a win. I can't tell you how many times the double flex option has saved my pick'ems. Sometimes we're pretty confident in our sports takes, but that's why they play the game. And with the double flex option, I still won on some of my picks. Underdog is the best place to play pick'em. Download the app, sign up with the promo code Casper, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code Casper. Must be 18 and older and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Unique farming operations need unique financial solutions. Egg Country Farm Credit Services offers customized financing that fits any size farm, ranch, or agribusiness. The next time you're in the market for more land, equipment, facilities, or maybe even an operating loan, contact the team at Egg Country. They know agriculture and will work for you. Egg Country. Focused on ag, focused on you. Egg Country is an equal opportunity lender.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-529-2856. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 to 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-529-2856. That's 800-529-2856 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-529-2856. 800-529-2856.
A lot of folks around here are breathing easier because of Grace Home Respiratory. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory is a local company that puts customer service first. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory provides an array of medical equipment, services, and supplies to help their recovery and enhance their quality of life. They appreciate that Grace Home Respiratory has the experience and qualifications that exceed their expectations. So when you need home medical equipment and services, turn to Grace Home Respiratory not only for the equipment you need, but for their dedicated staff of respiratory therapists who are on call 24 hours a day. To find out more, call Grace Home Respiratory at 715-832-7377 or online at ghr-ec.com.
Grace Home Respiratory always has your health and safety as their top priority. Your expert when it comes to medical equipment and supplies. Choose Grace Home Respiratory.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. Today, you're going to pay down your credit card bill. But you decide when you'll pay it. Before the due date, so those interest charges don't get you. But you decide if you pay it in full. But you definitely should, because again, interest charges. With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
For over 50 years, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine has been Western Wisconsin's trusted leader in orthopedic care. Whether you're facing bone and joint pain, sports injuries, or complex spine issues, their expert team is dedicated to helping you live pain-free. Now with their new state-of-the-art facility in Rice Lake, you can enjoy clinic visits, advanced imaging, and personalized physical therapy all under one roof. Visit cvosm.com to get back to doing what you love pain-free. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, where high-quality care meets hometown commitment.
Keep your feet warm and dry this winter with the Shoe Doctor in Eau Claire. Only the Shoe Doctor has over 4,500 styles of footwear and personalized fitting for everyone in your family. It's backed by the Shoe Doctor's exclusive 30-day comfort guarantee, so you know you'll walk away happy. The selection, brands, sizes, widths, service, and prices that fit just right. Come see for yourself at the Shoe Doctor. Easy to find. 2321 Claremont near Fairfax in Eau Claire.
Highlighting all the sports and outdoor activities that Wisconsin has to offer. It's the Scunny Sportsman. Visit sportstalk1051.com to check it out.
Looking for the best selection, firearms, ammunition, and accessories? Look no further than Tilden Gun. Whether you are a seasoned hunter, competitive shooter, or just starting out, they've got everything that you need. Tilden Gun carries top brands and a wide variety of firearms to fit every purpose. Rifles, shotguns, you name it. And if you're not quite sure what you're looking for, their friendly, experienced staff is there to help answer any questions you may have. And it's not just about the gear, too. Tilden Gun offers expert advice that you can trust and help you make the right choice and ensure you're confident and prepared. So stop by their shop, 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. That's 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. You can also check out their website at tildengun.com and see all the different options you can choose from. All right, let's bring them on in. We've got Conservation Warden, Mr. Jake Bolks, joining us as usual every Thursday morning at 8:30. A little bit of change of the weather. I was going to say you staying warm out there, but it's actually kind of a heat wave out there right now, Jake, it seems like.
Yeah, it's crazy how it changes so quickly, going from pretty cold to everything's melting while I'm driving right now, or driving down south in part of the state a little bit. And then, next week it's going to be so cold that you don't even want to go outside again for a few days.
Exactly.
It's a roller coaster right now.
Hey, Jake, before we get to some questions from some listeners, and I know, winter for us, maybe we're not really thinking about this, but given, kind of what's going on to the West Coast with all the wildfires in California, maybe just like a good reminder when we get to that season, when it gets to, fire safety here in Wisconsin, it may kind of, maybe a small fire like that may seem minor or such, but, we see what the awful stuff's happening in California and such, but maybe just a good reminder for like outdoor burning and such.
Yeah. So, anytime there's snow on the ground is a pretty good time for us in the sense of, being safe. So, if there's snow on the ground, it lessens the restrictions on if you need permits or not when it comes to the DNR. Usually if there's snow on the ground, you're okay to burn and stuff like that. Plus, it reduces the risk of wildfires. But there's still plenty of places in the state where there's not a lot of snow or no snow. And it's just important any time of year to just kind of, be aware, one, that you're being safe anytime you have a warming fire, like you're cooking some food or just warming yourself up. Make sure it's contained in some fashion, or there's a fire break, or you have a way to put it out if something happens. If you start burning on a windy day, probably not the best idea. If it's dry, don't burn. But something else, and every area of the state's different, every county's different, and sometimes every township's different. But it's really important that wherever you're burning, you're familiar with the local ordinances or the state laws on if you can burn or not. Generally, unless there's a big fire ban, you can always have a warming fire, which means, again, that you're cooking food or trying to stay warm. But when it comes to like burning brush or trying to, do whatever kind of burning that's more than a warming fire, there are some areas where you have to have permits, especially depending on the time of year and the weather conditions and stuff. Not only with the state, but there are different counties and townships that require burning permits. So just be cognizant of that. If you always burn in the same spot, just Google it, where you're at if you need something special. A lot of times they're either free or very cheap if you need to get a permit. So just another thing, I know it's another thing for some people to have to look into, but it's important because, one, it protects us, it protects the landscape, and it might save you a citation or ticket or having the fire department come out, which is an expensive payment to them.
Absolutely. So, all right. So we had a question a little bit earlier. This was from Rodney saying, question for DNR Jake. Does the free fishing weekend, which is this weekend, include free fishing for out of state people?
It does.
Nice.
So it is free fishing for anyone that is allowed or has the opportunity to fish, no matter where they're from. And I say that in the sense of if you're revoked from hunting, fishing, trapping, in this state or in other states, it doesn't allow you to fish. So it's free fishing if you have, the privilege still to do it. But if you're from out of state, yep, you don't need a fishing license, but everyone still needs to follow the fishing regulations. So it's not a free for all on how many tip ups you can have. It doesn't change the like length limits, like walleye, or bass, you still have to have those length limits. So doesn't change any of that. It just allows people to not have to buy their license for the weekend.
Nice. Yeah, it is free fishing weekend this weekend too, which I think this is something worth mentioning too. I know we mentioned it with the summer one, but even some sites have fishing equipment for loan, including, ice fishing. And I was looking at some of the counties
Yep.
around here, like Brunei Island for over by Cornell. It says they've got like some ice fishing jigs available too. So if anybody doesn't have equipment, there's actually some loaner sites.
Yeah. Nope. There's a lot of different DNR loaner sites throughout the state for both hard water fishing or ice fishing and summer fishing. A lot of times, all it takes is you to make a call to like our general DNR info line. If you call those folks, they're very knowledgeable about all the different programs and can get you in contact with whoever is the most appropriate contact. So, I mean, we're talking about fishing, but if you ever have questions, there are even programs where, if you're learning to hunt and you don't have access to a rifle or something for the deer season, you can work with different areas to get the tools or resources you need to enjoy the outdoors.
With fishing season two, we did have a season open up. Was it about 10 days ago? It was the early inland trout, right, Jake?
Yeah, yeah, yep. So you want if you're going to do that early season trout fishing, which I mean hypothetically this next couple of days wouldn't be a horrible time. Probably not when the high is -7 next week, but you really want to make sure to read the regs on that. Don't just grab a fishing pole and go trout fishing, because there are a few more stipulations or regulations when it comes to this early inland season, because it's an opportunity they opened up a few years ago, but it's still more regulated than like once the regular season opens, because the fish are still in kind of a vulnerable stretch and it's the winter and stuff like that. So a lot of it is artificial lures only. Some areas are no bait or no live bait and different things like that. Sometimes the bag limits are a little bit different in this season versus the regular season. So just if you're going to go do it, it's a great opportunity, especially with not a ton of snow on the ground and a 38-degree day. It's maybe something that's great to do, but go check it out, because there's specific regs with that.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about the regs too, because I know it's not for everyone. It's very important for everybody to check out the regs, because different locations, different counties have different regulations. But for the most part, is like the summer, let's say spring, summer fishing regulations kind of carry over to ice fishing season, or could there be a lot of different changes?
Yeah, no, it generally carries over pretty good. It's just when you have kind of some of these newer seasons like this, it's a little bit more unique. And it is just like the inland. So like there's still areas that are closed to fishing depending on what it's classified as, like a tributary or this or that. And then there are some lakes in the winter that are closed as well for trout fishing. Like I know there's a few in Chippewa County that even though there's an early inland season, these lakes are closed in the winter period. They don't reopen for this season. So I wish I could talk on each one, but you
Might
got
be
to
here for a while.
Yeah, we'd run the programming through the evening probably.
We got to throw in a little hunting here before I let you go too, because we got archery, in some areas still going on to the end of the month. Have you
Yeah.
been hitting the woods or doing any deer stuff yet with this extended archery season?
When we're out on patrol, when I'm out on patrol, we're kind of looking any time of year because you never know when someone's deer hunting in April. But
Mhm.
we're always kind of watching for just any sort of DNR regulated activity for us to check people, whether they're doing it right, wrong, or, whatever the case is, just to stop and have a conversation. But out in our travels the last few weeks, we've seen a few people, or at least we assume, we see someone that's bow hunting. We're not just going to randomly go walk on someone's private property if we don't know there's a violation or this or that. But there's people out, it's not the most popular activity, right now, just with it being cold. There's a fair amount of ice fishermen out. At least, we're getting some good ice the last few weeks. So I'd say we've been talking to a lot of fishermen and such mostly the last couple weeks.
Mhm. Also too, Jake, I know, we got a little bit more snow last night and such, and I'm sure anybody who's got snowmobiles and all that's
Yeah.
getting itchy to go out on the trails. Is that something that you get asked a lot about, like trail statuses and such?
Yeah, we do. And, if anyone is curious today, almost all of the trails are managed by the local counties. So you always want to, Google like Eau Claire County snowmobile trails, and then there's a page dedicated to it. It'll show like the status and where they're grooming, or if they're expected to open or if they're expected to close. But you're right. I mean, after that first snowfall where we only got like an inch or so or two, I saw so many snowmobiles in the back of people's trucks, and I want to be that. I want to get out there. I have a brand new sled for work here that I want to go ripping around, but unfortunately it's kind of like a teaser because there's not enough snow. There's not enough snow to get the groomers out to, they're just going to push the snow down to the dirt, so we need a lot more snow. So you just risk ripping up someone's yard or someone's farm field, or damaging your machine without enough snow. So there's obviously been some on the lakes, which is legal and fine. But just be cognizant of the damage you can do with limited snow, not only to the land, but to your own machine. And then just check, after every snowfall, just check the websites and see if there's any indication that they're going to open soon. I spoke with our administrative lieutenant who manages our entire snowmobile program throughout the state yesterday, and we were talking about the snow and different opportunities, and he was like, yeah, I don't even think there's a county in the state that has open trails yet.
Man.
Maybe Iron County might open soon, but I don't know. So
you got to go north
crazy
if you're going to try to find something at this point. So
yeah, and even then there's not much up there.
Well, hey, Jake, I saw this before I let you go. Might as well give this a plug. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a DNR Career Fair for Eau Claire location. I know there's a few of them coming up this month, but looks like the Eau Claire Service Center from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hosting a career fair. You can talk with staff about full-time, part-time opportunities and a wide variety of careers, and learn how to apply online and such. So if anybody's interested, that's probably a good time to go down and check it out.
It is. Last year was the first time they did that, and I'm pretty sure it was either a snowstorm or it was extremely cold, and there was still a really, really good turnout. The wardens there were really happy, or not really well, they were happy, but they were really surprised with how many people showed up. And it's not just for wardens, it's for all DNR stuff. So if you have an interest in the natural resources, or you want to talk with your local DNR staff, or if you have interest, feel free to show up. It's a great time to check it out and ask questions and see if there's a career for you in the DNR. I was at a meeting the last couple of days with a bunch of DNR employees, and it's a very good workplace with a lot of good camaraderie, and everyone's kind of got the same enjoyment of the outdoors and the same drive to protect it, no matter what program you're in. So it's a pretty unique but fun place to work at.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, hey, Jake, we appreciate the time as always, buddy. stay normal today, but then next week stay warm when you're out there and stuff.
You too, and everyone listening. Good luck this weekend, and stay warm next week.
Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Talk to you in a week. See ya.
You got it. There you go. Jake Bolks, DNR warden for the state of Wisconsin. All right. Final break here, and we got some picks and predicts to wrap up the program. Final call for any questions that you would ask Goody. We'll get to some of them that I missed on the texting line here, too. We'll be back in just a few minutes. When it comes to fresh quality meats, nobody does it better than Mike's Star Market. From hand-cut steaks and juicy burgers to premium brats and snack sticks, they have everything you need to make your next meal unforgettable. And don't forget, hunters, they are your go-to place to drop off your game to get your meat processed. So stop by and give Mike's Star Market a visit, 2238 Heimstead Road in Eau Claire. Sarah, Mike, and the entire staff there will greet you with a hi and help answer any questions you may have. Mike's Star Market, deliberately old-fashioned to assure quality and affordability. Yeah, with those temperatures going to be dangerously cold next week, it's probably a really good idea to stay tuned to our website, sportstalk1051.com, for the WEAU 13 News First Alert School Closings, brought to you by Hovland's and Service Master. So stay on tap for that, especially with some really cold temperatures coming into play early part of next week over there. All right, let's do some picks and predicts this morning, brought to you by the Elbow Room. Let's start off with some college hoop picks. Number 20, Michigan is going to be visiting the Gophers over at Minnesota. I will take the Wolverines in that game. I'll take Michigan. Do we got any other big time matchups here? Maryland at Northwestern. We'll do some Big Ten. I'll do Maryland. Rutgers at Nebraska. Give me Nebraska in that game. Is that about it? I think I want to pick. Yeah, unless I skipped over one. No, I think that's about it for some college hoops. Not a big night either for the NBA. We got Indiana at Detroit. Think about this. Detroit's favored against Indiana. I'm still going to go Indiana, though. I'll go Indiana. Phoenix at Washington. Give me the Suns. Cleveland at Oklahoma City. It's going to be a good one tonight. We just had this matchup, was it last week, and Cleveland won? I'll go with the Thunder getting the win tonight. I'll go with OKC. Clippers at Portland. Give me the Clippers. Houston at Sacramento. Should be a good one, too. Sacramento's been playing well. I know they just lost to the Bucks the other night. Sacramento is favored by 3.5. I'm going to go with the Rockets tonight. I'm going to go with the Rockets to pick up that win. Let's do some NHL games. It's been a little bit here since we did some NHL games. I just watched Mighty Ducks D2 last night with my kid. First time he's seen that, so a little bit of hockey mood. We've got the Ducks playing tonight at Tampa Bay. I can't go with the Ducks, though. I'll go with Tampa Bay for this one. New Jersey at Toronto. I'll go Devils. I'll go with the Devils in that one. Let's do the Kraken at Winnipeg. Go Kraken, but I'm going Winnipeg. Rangers taking on the future Yetis of Utah. I'll go with the Rangers in that one. Blackhawks taking on Nashville. Give me Nashville. And then we'll do Detroit at Florida. Give me the Panthers, though. I'll go with Florida. Los Angeles at Vancouver. I'll go with the Kings for that, too. Edmonton at Colorado. That could be a good one, too. I'll go Avalanche. I'll go with the Avalanche there. So, all right. Those are your picks and predicts, again, brought to you by the Elbow Room. A big thanks to everybody who texted in your questions. A couple more here. What have they seen from all the old linemen that they drafted last year, and are any of them ready to start? Is a question over there. Another question is what will they do? So this has been a common theme. What will they do with the wide receivers? Will they get a veteran wide receiver? That is probably, if I had to kind of add up all the different questions, that's probably been the number one question people would ask Goody, is about a veteran wide receiver. Second behind that would probably be maybe like a defensive lineman. So those are probably the two most popular picks in terms of a question that they would ask Goody today at his presser. Again, I wouldn't hold my breath on a lot of stuff that he's going to say. He's not going to reveal any secrets. He's not going to reveal any game plans or anything like that. But there's probably a chance that there's going to be a couple things that he said might be a little bit newsworthy, but I'm not holding my breath on anything. If there is, we'll talk about it tomorrow for sure. It's our first Friday where it's not really a Packer football Friday. So, but the playoffs do continue. The NFL playoffs do continue. So coming up tomorrow, we'll hit that up, take a look at the weekend's games and such, and kind of redo some of our picks if we want to. And also, we've got a national championship to kind of get ready for as well. That's coming up on Monday. But again, your playoff schedule: Saturday, Houston visiting Kansas City. That's at 3:30. Saturday night, Washington visiting Detroit. Sunday will be the Rams taking on Philly. And then Sunday night, it'll be Baltimore taking on the Bills. I miss this. Micah Parsons calls Mike McCarthy's Cowboys exit devastating. I'm obviously very sad because of the relationship we had with Coach McCarthy and everything he's done for our program. 3 straight 12-5 seasons, playoff appearances, and obviously an unfortunate year due to injuries. It is devastating. Coach Mike is a great father, great coach, one of the most winningest coaches. He's always been good to us as a unit, coaches players. Losing a great coach like Mike hurts. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, Mike got an interview with Chicago last night. Sounds like he's going to be interviewing with the Saints coming up here as well. But other than that, it's fairly quiet on the head coaching news. I mean, New England just pounced on Mike Vrabel, which probably doesn't surprise it. Should not surprise anybody at that point. But, we'll see. I mean, you still got some guys that are coaching in the playoffs, specifically Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. That could be one of those dudes that's going to get a head coaching job. But I think maybe next week we'll start to kind of get into maybe some more, or we'll start to see some more teams probably hiring their head coaches and such. I think next week's going to be perhaps a big one. But who knows? If Ben and Aaron Glenn are going to get jobs, they're going to have to probably wait a little bit unless the Commanders pull off the upset this weekend. But otherwise, teams are taking their time right now. Some teams are taking their time at this point. Also, tomorrow we'll catch up with Brandon Berg, local sports roundup. We'll chat about that. We'll talk about the Brewers International class as we start to inch a little bit closer and closer to pitchers and catchers reporting and spring training and that. So we'll throw that in there. We'll talk to Dr. Crow for some inside the training room chats. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. That is coming up tomorrow shortly after 7. Reminder for our local sports roundups and our inside the training rooms. If you miss any of those, they are available on podcasts. Just head to our website, sportstalk1051.com, and you'll see the tab with podcasts up there. Scroll over it, and you will see all the different ones, local sports roundup, inside the training room. We've got a new episode of the Rollin' with the Golds podcast that just dropped minutes ago. Our Blue Golds podcast. We actually chat with head football coach Rob Erickson over there. Plus the Eau Claire Express podcast that we do, the All Aboard the Eau Claire Express podcast is available there too. So if you miss any of those, they're always up at our website after the show is done and posted up over there. So you can catch up on those or re-listen to them or share them with others that you may know. All right. I only got a minute left. So again, big thanks for everybody who texted your answers, your questions to Goody, receiver defer, just your analysis, your input. Big thanks for that. Keep that coming. All right, keep that rolling over there. Get ready for your cream of the crop picks for tomorrow, though. Okay, think about that for a little bit and make your selections for cream of the crop. We'll make our picks coming at you tomorrow too. It's always a fun one over there. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Goody later on today. Again, I'm not expecting a whole lot, but I think mostly I listen to these. One, you do see if there's a little bit of a nugget. Two, how they answer a question. If you answer that, or you ask him a straight up question, like if it's on the Jair, how does he answer it? Does he leave the door open for interpretation and such? Does he try to slam that door? That's kind of what I take away from a lot of these press conferences at this point. DP Danitz are up next. Have yourself a good Thursday. We'll wrap up the week tomorrow morning, about 6 a.m. Talk to you then.